Good evening, everyone. Namaste. This is Uday Makawala, CEO, Atal Incubation Center, Rambhav Malgi, Prabodhini. Welcome to the yet another episode of Baat. This is episode 7. Uh, and thank you for the encouraging response and overwhelming response to Baat as well, because we keep on getting a lot of messages that Baat has moved to the next level in terms of the speakers, in terms of the discussions, the engagements. And I believe that's what our objective was, that keep Baatchit conversational, keep Baatchit impactful, and we can showcase the right ecosystem players, we can showcase the right startups, we can showcase the right innovators, and give them a platform to talk about their journeys. So I believe we have been able to achieve a bit of it, but long way to go. So today's episode, it's very interesting. It's about agriculture. As everyone knows, agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy. We at AICRMP have always encouraged Agri Tech startups in this sector that are working towards creating an impact. And mainly the stakeholder out there are farmers as well. So Aggregate as accelerator program in association with Global Pearly, that's one of the such instances or initiative that we just launched, and happy to share that we have received overwhelming response. Wherein today is the last date of application for Aggregate. So if you have not, I think you should. It's not just even startups, it's even for partnerships as well. We have been getting very overwhelming response around being their partner for Aggregate. So looking forward to creating such impactful programs and properties around. But today, let's just talk about agriculture, the power of agriculture, and we have a early stage agri tech startup as well that's going to showcase from our cohort 2. That's going to showcase his work. So as I was saying that we believe it is imperative for budding entrepreneurs to understand the power of agriculture and its growing momentum, for which I believe the Baatchit will give you more insights now. So we have Mr. Farzan Ghadially, Senator India, World Business Angels Investment Forum, and Pramod Seshan, who is the cohort 2 incubatee, founder of Farm, that's the brand name, Saras Agri Ventures Private Limited, who would showcase his work. So as per our practice, let me first introduce our mentor, Mr. Farzan Ghadially. So Farzan ji, by profession, he's an investment banker. He has a multi-family office. He has a rich experience in the financial service industry in India and overseas. He's the author of 2 books, Investing in Turbulent Times and Investing in the Turbulent Decade That Was and Beyond. He writes in leading financial newspapers, including Midday, wherein his column features every Monday in the finance section. Do watch out. I found those particular columns to be very interesting and very knowledgeable. So we would really certainly like our viewers to take the benefit of it. And he talks about not just the startup ecosystem, but about agriculture, economy, policies, and very interesting topics. By qualification, he has done MBA in finance, and he holds a bachelor degree in economics. So that's where I believe this lethal combination of understanding the economics, the policy, the finance, and the startup ecosystem, I think that comes naturally to him. So with this, I would request Farzanji to initiate our Baatchit, introduce our speaker, that's Mr. Pramod Seshan. And as we said, we promise that this is going to be an interactive, non-scripted, and pretty much conversational part of it for the next 40 minutes. So looking forward to it, sir, and thank you for really agreeing to be a part of Baatchit. Looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Deji. Good evening, everyone. Namaskar, everyone. Really look forward to this session. I think this is a very, very critical sector that the Indian economy really has. When we talk about agriculture, a lot of people say that is there scope in agriculture that is really there. So let's put some statistics, in place here. When we really look at it, about 16% of the GDP is being contributed by the agriculture sector. Almost 55% of the population that is really employed is employed in the agriculture sector. 15% of the overall credit that is given in India is given to the agriculture sector. $40 billion worth of export happens from the agriculture sector. So this sector is phenomenal. Now, for a lot of startups says that, good, this is a great sector. What is it in for us? I mean, the important point is, in the last 1 year, about $300 million has been invested in Agri Tech companies. This is growing and this is humongous. So a lot of professional investors, venture capitalists, private equity players are really looking at the agriculture sector in a very, very positive manner. Scalability in this sector is huge. There are about 1,000, active agri-tech startups that have got funded or looking to get funded in the near future. That's really there. However, they have just touched upon about 9 or 10% of the total, agriculture farmer community that is really there. So it's just the tip of the iceberg. So a lot of y'all that feel that, that is this sector like other sectors, am I too late to enter? I think this is just the beginning. This is a mature stage wherein now investors are looking in, they're putting large amounts of money. It is estimated that by next year, about $500 million would be invested. And we've really learned about this sector in the last 15 months. When all other sectors were under a lockdown, I think this was one sector that was really functioning. This was one sector that was growing. This was one sector that really give results in terms of, quarter on quarter and month on month, where rest of the economy was really, really lagging. So a lot of people have realized the importance. Plus, due to the pandemic, I mean, habits of people is really changed in terms of, eating healthy, eating fresh, all of that is really happening. Most important, this is nothing new that is really there. What is really important is the government support that has come in the agriculture sector now. I think, the Honorable Prime Minister has really given trust to the agriculture sector. The reforms of the Farm Bill have been fantastic. They have opened gates as far as the agriculture is concerned. Amount of infrastructure that has been set up as far as the agriculture sector is concerned is really phenomenal. So when we look at the agriculture sector, India has the second largest agri land bank in the world. It is about 151 hectares. And the problem here is large majority, almost 120 million hectares is by small and marginal farmers. So a small and marginal farmer doesn't really know what to do with this proceeds. How does he go about it? So all these reforms that are taking place, whether it's reform from the government side, innovation from the startup ecosystem that is there, it is helping the farmer, it is helping the consumer, and it is helping the complete really value chain. What is amazing is only 1% of the farmers have a land bank more than 10 hectares. So what does it really show? It really shows that this is the sector wherein a lot of work can really be done. A lot of innovation can really be done. There are various business models that are really, present as far as startups are concerned. Whether you're talking about farm to fork, whether you're talking about introduction of technology, various parts. So the scope is humongous. That's really there. As I said, if you really look at the government support, what is the government supporting in? One is the direct support. When you say direct support, you're really looking at in terms of the incentives that have been given directly to the farmer. For the marginal farmers, you have the PM Kisan Yojana that is really there, helping the marginal farmer, helping them out really. If you really look at irrigation, huge amount of irrigation projects that are really in place. If you really look at working capital support, it's coming in from NABARD. If you really look at infrastructure, 1 lakh crores of infrastructure being set up. If you look at food parks, you have today food parks that have been set up, which have tremendous amount of scope and tremendous traction from the government has been given on the food parks in terms of incentive, whether it's a fiscal incentive, whether it is a central or the state incentive. What is the use of all this? The use of all this is so that the proceeds that are produced in the farm can be better and more effectively utilized. If you go back to say a sector like even the sugarcane sector, a sector where farmers used to suffer a lot because sugar mills were probably not paying the dues. You have a fantastic ethanol policy that is introduced wherein the sugar mills are doing well. When the sugar mills are doing well, the benefit is transformed as far as the farmer is concerned. So I think putting all of this together, I think the scope is humongous in this sector. We are blessed with a growing population. I mean, we will keep growing in India with a growing population, and Indians like to eat, so there is a lot of scope that is really there, and the government is really there at the right time to support in terms of infra, in terms of policy, in terms of credit. So I think, the stage is set for a lot of startups. like Pramod's startup that, that can really capitalize. And that is what has opened the eye for a lot of investors, whether it is private equity investors, whether it is venture capital investors or foreign investors that have really looked at, here is an opportunity that can really, really be scaled. So a lot of you guys who want to really, do something on the agri tech side of it, I think you got to really decide which part of the agri tech business you really want to be. You could be the technology side, you could be, the procurement side. The scope is humongous. Like if you really look at it, post-harvest losses, there's almost a 40% post-harvest loss that is there in Indian agriculture. You fix 2-3% of that, and I think you're done. You're huge. It's phenomenal. So, in India, we have approximately 15 regions that have various climatic conditions and various, agriculture practices that are there. So you could be a regional player, you could be a national player. There is a lot of scope that's really there. So you need to fix a problem. The most important at the end of the day, you need to consider, unlike other sectors, this is not a sector that you can probably sit in a cushioned office, an air-conditioned office and work. You're dealing with the farmer, my friends. You're dealing with the farmer. So if Pramod goes to a farmer, what does he say? He doesn't know him. He doesn't live there. What is the mentality of the farmer? Where is his office? Where is his godown? I need to see that. And today we work on almost a virtual platform, right? Today the norm is you don't own an office, you don't own a godown. We do it on a sharing basis. So there is a problem. So you have to win trust of the farmer. He's the guy who's going to supply you that quantity. At the same time, a lot of agri-tech sectors really suffer for a simple reason. Economies of scale are not there. If you go to a farmer, if he has a capacity of say 10,000 quintals, okay, and you say that I want to buy say 1,000 quintals, it may not really help him. What does he do with the 9,000? So unless and until you come to economies of scale, which a few obviously agri-tech companies have, and we use it day in and day out, there will be scope for other people to enter. The competition will be huge. Competition will be from other agri-tech companies, at the same time other unorganized players. Like there are a lot of agri-tech companies that supply fruits and vegetables at home, but do the vendors down our house go away? They're very much there. They continue to be there. So that just goes to show the unorganized sector is very much there with the organized sector as well. You need to keep your farmer happy. In what way are you going to keep the farmer happy? Procure quantity, pay him on time. These two things. And then you will have to really look at the value chain. You will have to look at the value chain. When I say when you look at the value chain, probably he needs funding for, his seeds. He needs funding for his fertilizers. He needs funding for logistics, all of that. So for a lot of you people, I mean, the scope is excellent that is there. The penetration is only 9 and 10%. So really, it's an under-penetrated sector. It's very mature right now in terms of investments. A lot of investors are looking at it. So I think it's the right time. And, people should really, enter and really do something on the agri-tech side of it. Because if India has to transition from a developing to a developed nation, I think what needs to change is the agrarian economy. And the agrarian economy today, the government has laid the foundation. By the farm bills, the government has laid the foundation. Here's the base that has been given. It will take time to build over it. I think a lot of agri-tech startups are going to use these policies to the maximum benefit. And that is how you really go to the next level. My advice would be, capital is there. There is humongous amount of capital that is really available in this sector, as long as you do your business model right and create value for the farmer and your consumer. So, that is on the agri-tech sector. Pramod would love to, hear your journey. I mean, from a corporate job, jumping into the agri-tech sector and, being on the farm, being on the field. It's a very, very different thing. I'm sure you had your highs and lows. And, how have you gone about it? Would love to, hear a bit about the background and, how did you start off? Why did you start off? I mean, that would be the first thing that I would love to hear is like, why did you choose the agri-tech sector,
Sure. Thanks, Farzan. Thanks to AICRMP as well for allowing us to be a part of Baat, Cheet. Extremely exciting to have this discussion. So Farzan, to start with, where did it all hit? So the story actually goes back to maybe 15 years back. So this was when I was in college, and every day during breakfast, it was a regular routine to watch the news, right? And unlike the recent times, during those times in news, we used to invariably hear about farmer suicides, right? So so when I'm having breakfast, and very coincidentally, I'm hearing about suicide of a farmer was actually put that food on my plate, right? So that's what sowed the seed, and then made me think of how can this life change. But then obviously I was too young at that point. Definitely there wasn't so much technology or so much of support system which could have allowed me to jump in right at that time itself. So this was there at the back of the mind. So I thought, okay, the right approach would be to probably build the skills that would be required and understand how the sector is growing parallelly. So I was always keeping a track of what are the things that are happening on the agriculture front. And then I felt after having spent about 10 years in the corporate sector, I had garnered enough skills, and then I thought I should put it to use in the right place, or a place where I have seen there is a need. And very frankly, in the last 5-6 years, the way the world has changed in terms of technology becoming such a huge enabler, I think every sector has seen the benefits of this, but farming hasn't as yet. There are some players who have been working on this for quite some time. But I honestly feel, as you said, 9 to 10% is the penetration, right? So I don't think technology as an enabler has grown in a very big way yet. So, and having seen the penetration of data, penetration of mobile phones, all these felt that now the entire system is much more closer. It is not like the rural belt or village is very far away from me. I felt that now the reach can happen, and we'll be able to take on the unorganized sector as well. Who have played a role. I don't think so. There's always this debate which happens that we blame the unorganized sector for the inefficiencies. But I think the way we have been running all this while is because of that unorganized sector only. They've been doing their job with whatever limited capabilities they have. They've been doing their job. Now probably it is time for people like us to step in and see how the efficiencies can go up, how the losses can be cut down. So yeah, this is a little bit of background on what stuck me to get started.
That's wonderful, Pramod. That's wonderful. Very, very good to hear that. You stressed upon a very important point about the unorganized sector. I mean, let's look at the psyche of the farmer. He's a marginal farmer that has probably 1 or 2 hectares. He grows whatever he grows. Say, he grows wheat, he grows jowar, bajra, whatever he grows. I don't think so. He has the wherewithal to find the customer. What does he want? The farmer wants 2 things. One, whatever produce is produced, at the end of it, it has to be sold at a price. If he doesn't sell it at a price, the problem is there is no storage facility. So there was always lack of infrastructure that is there. I think the government is pegging that. Okay, with this thrust of 1 lakh crores, it's saying that we'll put the infrastructure in place. So probably this will change over a period of time. It will really, really change. So what does he do? He takes his proceeds, he takes it to the mandi. Okay, whether it is 20 rupees or whether it is 10 rupees, he sells it. Why does he sell it? Because that 10 rupees will become probably 0 rupees if he doesn't sell it in 4 days. So, the unorganized sector, yes, has played a very, very important role so far. As you rightly said, things are really, really changing. The environment that we look at agriculture on the whole is something that's really changing. If you really look at, direct transfer to farmers, in terms of direct transfer to farmers, that is revolutionary. That is revolutionary today. So, you don't no longer have that thing that, government 100 rupees bhejti hai, khali 10 rupees farmer ko milta hai. That's not there. There's a direct transfer in his account that is really there. So I think things are really, setting up really, really well. You mentioned about technology, when you really look at it, tell me the challenges that you really face, because let's understand, you're not talking to a tech savvy customer farmer, right? If you are fintech, you have an NBFC, you have a bank you're talking to, edtech, you have an educated kid or a college student. Here is a farmer that probably uses a smartphone just to see videos most of the time, or WhatsApp. How are you going to use technology? How are you guys using the technology to penetrate? How are you all using that? I would love to hear on that.
Sure. Farzan, so the very important aspect is, as you said, a trust is not built on day one with these farmers, right? So it is very important for you to understand what is the path or the way to reach a small and marginal farmer. So what we understood was we have FPOs, right? The farmer producer organizations. So technically, or by definition, this is supposed to be an entity which is supposed to give more strength to the farmers. But then again, what is happening with FPOs is they do not have the capability. They are basically slightly more interested farmers or slightly more influential farmers. They're coming together, forming an FPO, becoming directors of that. But beyond that, they don't know what needs to be done. So at least this is what we understood once we went on ground. during your interactions. So the path to the farmer is through these FPOs or through the NGOs who are already working on ground. So what we have done when we have approached the geography is to identify one such player who is there, who has already built his credibility. And then it has been easy for us to build our credibility with that one individual or that one organization. And in turn, they have opened the gates for us to at least connect with the farmer. I wouldn't say they have gone and said that, okay, this is a great product, you should go and make use of it. They're also wary, right? They know of so many people who are coming in and trying to do something. So they're also wary. They only introduce and say that, okay, these people have something which we feel can be beneficial to you guys. So are you ready to explore? So that is how we have managed to enter in each market. And then what we have done is we have very consciously gone and interacted with the second generation farmers, ones who are maybe in the age group of say 30 to 40 or max 50, not beyond that. So as you said, the digital literacy part might be a challenge with farmers who are beyond 50, but this age group of 30 to 50, even we were surprised. We also went on ground with the notion that they might not be very financially, digitally literate. But when we went, the ease with which they were able to manage, we understood that it is only up to us to be able to put a very simple interface, and then they are definitely going to use. So we have identified some influencers in the second generation farmers and started interacting with them. They're a little more open in terms of any new ideas or thoughts. They don't have a very strong connect with the middlemen who have a very strong connect with the first generation. So there's an emotional connect between the first generation farmers and the middlemen who are currently operating, right? Whereas the second generation farmers are thinking little more practically. They're saying, this guy has helped us all this while, that's fine, but nothing is changing in our lives. So if something has to change in our lives, we have to take some initiative. So that's how that segment is becoming active. So we are going to them, and then slowly through them, we are able to connect with the other small and marginal farmers also. Definitely these people are helping us in terms of doing the downloads, doing the installations. We do some basic videos and send it across to them in vernacular language so that it helps them to understand how the interface works and stuff, right? And one key value proposition that we are bringing on the table, Farzan, is financial transparency. So what from day one we are telling them is we want to create a system which is financially transparent. What does this mean to the farmer? We are just saying two things. One is whatever you are producing, you should get the right price for that, right? Whatever the market is currently offering you, you should definitely get more price than that. And the second aspect is every rupee that you are spending on your inputs. So whatever you are producing, you are spending on your inputs. So is every rupee that you are spending going the right way? Is it a quality farm input that you are procuring? So these are two elements which we are saying we want to bring transparency. And as far as the farmer is concerned, we are keeping it very simple. We are saying we have built an Android app in vernacular language, keeping a very simple interface. And the backend is probably a little more complex, but that is of not much. That's not of much impact for the farmer. So we are trying to keep it as simple as possible on the interface side, whereas the complexity can be in the backend. And these are the two elements where the focus is: get the right price, and for every rupee that is spent on farm inputs, get them the right value.
So Pramod, that's very, very interesting. It's really interesting, very beneficial, I'm sure, to the target audience, your farmers that are really there. But I have one fundamental question. A chartered accountant's son will want to become a chartered accountant. A lawyer's son will want to become a lawyer. A politician's son will definitely want to become a politician. But a farmer's son and the farmer himself will say, no, I don't want him to become a farmer. I want him to go and work in Infosys. Why is that the case? And will that ever change?
Yeah, so I think that is a very unfortunate situation. As you said, our population is going to only keep increasing, and the need for us to produce food is also only going to keep increasing, right? The land is becoming a little more scarce when compared to the demand that we have, and the interest levels of the farmers are also coming down, right? So when you look at all these things put together, it looks like a very, very dicey situation, right? And yes, I think because of the challenges that farmers have faced till date, wherein they get exploited by the money lenders locally. So somehow the farmers have come to the conclusion that the life may not change, and hence the next generation has to be put in a little more safe situation. And the best way is to educate them, move them to the cities, and see if they can find better jobs. Right. So will
that change? Do you see that change?
Yes. So that I can definitely see that change now because of the we are able to be in touch with them, even though it is virtual. I think we have an opportunity to have a touch point. right? Earlier, all these touch points had to be physical, which is where government had these Krishi Vikas Kendras. Every district has a district agricultural officer. So there is only so much limitation to what these people could do, because it necessitated a physical interaction. However, now with technology playing such a big role, we are clearly able to see that even through a virtual touch point, we'll be able to benefit them. And I think if that message can be conveyed to them, and if we are able to show them the benefit over a couple of crop cycles, and I'm definitely sure that not only the existing crop of farmers will be retained, they'll also encourage the next generation to take this up, because technically somewhere when you add these elements, though these are simple things, there is some amount of sophistication to the job profile itself, right? Somehow the farmer profile is looked down upon because people think there is not much of complication involved in the job. At least that's what we all have the opinion. But in our experience, every farmer is a farm CEO. That is how we actually want to call them, as a farm CEO, because a farm is a business unit, and every complexity that is there in a business unit is actually there in the farm. Now, if we are able to, through technology, weave a very good story around this and create a very compelling narrative, we are sure that we'll be able to convince the next generation also to take this as a profession of choice, and not be forced into this profession.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I was interacting with a bunch of farmers from Ahmednagar last couple of weeks, and some phenomenal stories. I mean, they were looking at investing in the stock market, and I was pretty shocked at that. So, one of them said that, their annual income is about 2 crore rupees. So, so you're absolutely correct. This is third generation. I mean, things are changing, and, hopefully things will change over a period of time. One very important point you just mentioned in your topic, when you were just talking in your discussion, Rao, that, you will have to handle the farmers for a couple of crop seasons. Right. This is very unlike the other startup ecosystem, right? Where you have a fintech, you make an app, and boom, you can go. You make an EdTech app, boom, you can go. Probably, couple of seasons. That means this appears to me a very long-term perspective. It doesn't mean that anyone who wants to get in Agri Tech, saying that, he told me that there is 500 million going to be invested next year, so I will have an Agri Tech startup. But it seems a long duration startup. What is your view on that?
Definitely. So I think unlike the typical sectors of tech that are there, here technology is going to be an enabler. I think in rest of the places, technology is going to play the complete role. Whereas here, technology will be an enabler, but it is going to require equal focus on the physical infrastructure as well. Nobody will be able to function purely by developing a technology solution alone. The solution has to be digital. I think this is a word which is going to catch up going forward. The solution might be digital, but it has to have a very strong physical support as well. Because as far as farm produce is concerned, it needs to be moved, right? So it needs to, as you highlighted during your initial talk, why this time is extremely exciting is because government is enabling a lot of setting up of the physical infrastructure, be it the warehouses, be it cold storage, be it better fleets for carrying the produce. So all these things I think are being built. So yeah, definitely not an easy sector. Two crop cycles, why I said was, there is definitely going to be skepticism in the mind that, okay, this guy is coming and doing it. How long will he be there? Because for them, they know that if we move out of that market, they're again at the mercy of the middleman again, which they don't want, right? They are taking a chance. They are giving us a chance. So it is for us to prove that, yes, this will work over a couple of crop cycles. And once I think that happens, we are seeing that in these two crop cycles itself, we are seeing that farmers are extremely excited by the possibilities that we are bringing. And they are saying that we are going to talk about this to the other farmers who are there in our village as well. So I think the effort is going to be in entering into a certain market, acquiring, and then stabilizing it for a couple of crop cycles. That effort is definitely going to be there. So I don't think anybody can come in and think that I built some technology solution, it will just go viral and then things will happen. No, this is definitely not a.
We are looking at least a 3 to 5 year gestation period before which you can really get your startup off the ground in the agriculture sector.
Definitely. So these 3 to 5 years will be in terms of building a business model, a sustainable business model, which is creating value for all the stakeholders that are involved. And that is when you can start thinking of really being able to scale up and go beyond. 3 to 5 years is like a reasonable period that will need to be invested. to be able to create a fairly value-adding product.
Okay, fair. Very, very interesting. You mentioned that, a lot of government support, one thing that, the government has started is a Kisan Rail that has started. I mean, a very small thing that has started, that is that, that's not really made the headlines a lot of places. But,
Right.
this small input from the government is really going to go a long way. You mentioned, that, a lot of infrastructure is coming up. I mean, let's look at food parks. Okay, the food park policy that is there, or there are mega food parks and there is agro processing clusters, as we call it, APCs that they call it. Wherein today, who are the people that are getting in? They are industrialists who are getting into food parks and APCs because of two reasons. One is the fiscal and monetary benefits that they get. And second, they see a lot of scope as far as, the whole agriculture sector is concerned. As they say, sugar may not have value, but jaggery has value. The fruit may not have value, but the pulp and the juice has the value. So, I think there is a lot changing over a period of time. I think, these food parks are coming out in districts after districts. There is a lot of input that is really going in, a lot of policy traction that is really taking place. And let's understand who will be the beneficiary of this. There'll be two beneficiaries of it, as I say. One is the farmer, absolutely, because his income is going to increase. Because here he's going to have better, better people buying his proceeds. And second is people like you and me, right? Even we consume, we are the people who want quality food at a reasonable rate, quality food at a, reasonable rate. So these are indeed, very, very interesting times. Let me ask you now, in terms of when you said you go to a farmer and, you pick up the proceeds from there. As a startup, how challenging is it to arrange the funding? How challenging, because the farmer is not going to wait, right? The farmer is not going to listen to your story. He says, the truck comes to my farm, I want my payment, period. I mean, that's whatever you do with it. Then, how you arrange it. How has been the journey so far? And, what do you really think of it? So, that way.
Correct. So typically, Farzan, when we went and interacted with the farmers, as you said, the expectation of so we had a commitment that we will pay them on the spot. We will do a basic quality check and do a payment on the spot. However, we were very, very surprised to know that that's not the current condition that they are in. So the existing alternatives or the unorganized sector, the way they deal with farmers is basically they pick up the produce, they make them wait for at least 2 to 3 weeks before the farmer can actually get paid. So being able to pay on the spot is definitely that's a sweet spot. And as you said, that means that we are going to have to carry the risk of having this produce, stocking this produce, taking care of it, do some primary processing before we are able to connect it to any institutional buyer or to the retail segment, right? So I think what we did very consciously was to live up to that commitment of paying on the spot. Yes, this meant that we had to manage our working capital accordingly. We definitely had reached out to banks and through the CGT MSE scheme of, this is again an initiative from the government. So through the CGT MSE scheme, we were actually able to secure a loan, which helped us in managing the working capital. That is one part. The second part is, I think the basic. So when we realized that they actually wait for 2-3 weeks, and so when we were paying on the spot itself, it felt like there is a huge value that we have already brought. Whereas that was never our intention. That this small thing itself will create a huge value. Why I'm saying this is because the kind of emotional effect it can have. For example, one day when we had picked up the produce and we had paid the farmer had to pay the fees for his daughter. So when I actually went and met him towards the end of the day, he was like almost teary-eyed, and he said that thanks sir, you've made the payment. I said, well, you have sold something, so you definitely you should be paid, right? So no, he said, no, we are not used to this. So for us, this was like a big welcome change. So yeah, so I think that is something we were able to establish, and that became a very good talking point in that market, at least post that stage as well.
So, two questions to you is one, how open are today small and marginal farmers to the digital payment? because you being a startup, you're not really used to the cash system of working, whereas they have things in India have really changed. Again, small doses of change from the Honorable Prime Minister has taken place, and a lot of digital infuse has taken place. Today, most of the tier 1, tier 2 cities are on some form of digital payment or no. What's been your experience in terms of the farmers? Are they open to it? Are they resenting it? Are they really looking forward to it? What's been your experience?
Right. So when we stepped into the market, we had some very, very pessimistic assumptions about certain things. As you said, one was how comfortable are they to use smartphones, right? How good is the penetration of data to the remotest of the places? And the third was how financially digital literacy is there. So as you highlighted, Farzan, so DBT is a scheme which has kind of forced everybody to open an account, ensure that they are managing their account. So we were also pleasantly surprised. We took a call from day one that we will not make cash payments. So maybe that call was also important. There were a couple of farmers who were trying to say that, sir, is cash possible? So we said we are not placing any other rules and restrictions, but this is one rule that we have from our side because we don't want anything to go wrong. So we are more comfortable for a account-to-account transfer. But we were fairly surprised in terms of their comfort levels as well, because other scheme benefits are also now starting to flow through the bank accounts, not necessarily cash. As you said, DBT is one example, but even otherwise, the state government is handing over certain benefits during COVID, some cash transfers during
direct
COVID.
Transfer.
Direct transfer. So I think definitely. So I think unless all this skeletal development happens, for example, I think unless UPI would have happened, I don't think e-commerce would have taken off in this big a way, right? So I think for that way, DBT happening, the farmers becoming more financially aware, more digitally aware, not having too many doubts about bank transfer. So yeah, there is a psyche change undoubtedly. So we were pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't say that there was a challenge and we overcame or anything. This was a pleasant surprise for us that they were okay. We had to push them a little and say that we have this rule as a company that we will only do account transaction, because we're talking about bringing financial transparency. The only way that can be brought about is if it is captured in the system.
The winds of change are flowing. I mean,
they are undoubtedly they are.
Absolutely. So, Pramod, just a last couple of, points that I would like to discuss with you. A lot of professionals, a lot of working people and people like you who have worked in technology for 10, 15 years have come to a point and they said, now we are tired of this hustle bustle of everyday working. We want to become a farmer. These stories, 10 years back were 1 in 100. Today, I think 20-30% want to go to some place and start a farm or be associated with the farming thing, for better health, better prospects, better peace, various reasons. Do you see this trend increasing, or is it just COVID fatigue that people are talking about? Or do you see that people are really want to taking up farming as a profession, like organic farming today is really picking up? Do you see this change that is happening? What's your view on it?
Right. So yes, I think a lot of professionals who understand a little bit of agriculture, they are doing their own research and they are stepping onto the field. I'll say I'm not sure whether this will sustain. Maybe a very initial knee-jerk reaction. Maybe some of them are in it because they do not have any other options. Unfortunately, COVID has led to a situation where people have had to lose their jobs and stuff. So that has forced people. But yeah, some changes when they happen because of environment, it can be for the good also. For example, demonetization, when it happened, one of the underlying purpose of demonetization also seemed to be that the digital payment should pick up. And we all know how much life has changed after demonetization. So COVID hopefully is that thing which is pushing a little more people who are aware about the safety of food. As you said, so that is one area which is very difficult to get into right now. We are at a very, very basic stage of getting farmer to move from a traditional crop to a little more high cash earning crop. That change itself is going to be a big challenge for us. So beyond that, moving to growing healthier crops. So that is where I think if some of these professionals who are going into rural areas and setting up their own farms, if they set an example and they make an exhibition out of it and then call some local farmers and tell them how they have managed to do it and how much better their produce is fetching in the market because they are adopting certain means, they can also be a harbinger of change, no doubt. But personally, I'm not seeing this impacting in a big way, but there could be small communities which could get built around these one or two people, enterprising people, and they could have a great impact.
Fantastic. No, Pramod, it was really nice to hear your journey. Really nice to hear your thoughts. I want to just conclude with one thing: is a lot of your friends who are Agri Tech founders who are listening to this conversation. You've done it. You've been in the field. You've toiled, and probably you are at a point where you are looking at a series of funding and growth. But a lot of people are still to get there. I mean, a quick 30-second or 45-second. What advice would you give, your fellow entrepreneurs who are looking at entering the agri-tech sector, and just any giveaway and encouragement that from your side before I conclude on that?
Sure. So firstly, I think even before I get into a tip or a suggestion, I think as you said, the system is quite encouraging now, Farzan. For example, the ecosystem that is there to support startups. I don't think this was ever there 5-10 years back. Right, so you have incubators, you have accelerators. So for us, AICRMP has been a big support. So we have been associated with them for the last 1 year. So that ecosystem is there. Government is rolling out schemes through their RKVY Raftar program, where again they are saying they'll give grants to startups who are in the minimum viable product stage and all. So one thing I would tell the aspiring agri-tech startups is it is tough, undoubtedly. As you said, this is not a company or an organization that you can start by sitting in offices. You have to go on ground, spend a lot of time on ground with farmers to understand their pain points. But the good thing is the ecosystem is really warming up and ready to support these agri-tech founders, be it incubators, be it the government. So I don't think ecosystem has ever been so positive, right? So like just any other startup journey, I think getting on ground and understanding the pain point and then developing the entire solution around it is very similar. However, for Agri, what I'm seeing being a very good period for the next 5 years in terms of how well the ecosystem is panning out, be it from the government side or the other incubator accelerators, the funders, everybody.
Absolutely, Pramod. It was really nice, hearing your journey. As Pramod really said, to all our friends who are getting into the agri-tech sector, I think, the point of inflection is here. You have a government that is really relentlessly supporting this sector. You have investors today that are looking at this sector. You have farmers today who have changed and are wanting the winds of change, and they're really looking at growing and taking it to the next level. So I think the time is now. The time is correct for, you all to proceed, take it forward in the agri-tech sector. And as I said, we are blessed with a growing population. I think the scope is humongous. We are just 9 to 10% penetration. I think, I'm sure in years to come, I think this will be a sector that, a lot of people will look forward to, and a lot of people will really, invest money in, make money in, and things will really change. And this will be the sector that will lead India from a developing, definitely to a developed country with the transition that is really there. Thank you, Pramod. Over to you, Pallavi.
Thanks, Farzan.
Thank you, Farzan sir. Thank you, Pramod, for this very powerful and engaging Baat-Cheet. I think this whole conversation gave a really great overview of agrarian economy, and you covered the whole landscape from challenges to scope in this sector. Pramod, it was really interesting to listen to your experiences from the field. And Farzan sir, as you rightly pointed out, that government has laid the foundation with policy initiatives, and I'm sure more and more budding entrepreneurs will enter into this field and build a superstructure and will contribute towards transforming the agriculture sector. Once again, thanks to both of you for sharing your rich insights with all of us. For those who are watching this Baat-Cheet live on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Do watch this space to know more about our next episode. And like today, we are going to invite stalwarts from the startup ecosystem in the next episode as well. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.